where this will have, where the variance hearings will have to be held. They have to be held in a public setting, and we have to have 10 days notice. So all variance meetings in regards to this proposal are definitely they will be published, and it will be public meetings. At no time this evening will the board be taking any action on any purposes of the proposal. That being said, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Doug Schmidt. He's the owner of Cooley Frac Sand. We have in attendance also Steve Manier, the CEO of Carbo Ceramics, also Kenny Kirk, the president of Cooley Frac Sand, and one other than I'm sorry, who else is here? There's a number of people. So at this point, I will turn it over to those gentlemen. Please, thank you.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. I've been working long hours on this reclamation plan. We've been working with Environmental Solutions, Summit Environmental Solutions professionals to help put this plan together. And it's like 451 pages long, but it's really not complete until I get your input. Because I really want to make this into a community project. You can see we've got some neat resource here that we can shape. Now there may be some duck hunters, I'm a duck hunter, and maybe we do something different than what we have here. But there's a lot of possibility in developing this area for a long-term recreational use. So I'm going to provide you with some information about what we have in mind here. As most of you know, this land is really comes from the Hanson property, which is this area through here, and the Helgerson property and the Francine property. It consists of about 170 acres, which we plan to develop like what you show here. So this is kind of the end result of it. When we actually go about and create this, we'll be doing 10 acres at a time, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it. This land really works well for what I showed you up there with the lake because it's nested right within wetland areas. The DNR, they've been out and they've identified and helped us mark out all the wetland areas. These areas right here in brown are wetlands that we have to respect. And we're actually going to add on to make this much, much more wetter. So along this coast, the borderline here, you've got wetland. On the other side, you've got wetland too. And then it raises up in the middle. I've got a slide that kind of shows you the topology of this. So the red is lowland area, which is mostly wetland. This blue line here is what the DNR has, they've delimited that to be wetland. So we can't go into that area, but we can develop wetland outside of that. And then this is also a low area. It's the blue and the purple that's much higher. It's a hill if you look at that land. It actually comes up 40 feet from an elevation here about 1190 all the way up to about 1200, 1240, right up in through here, 1230, yeah, right there in the purple.
Doug, could you tell us the roads there?
Sure. Okay, so B runs right along here, and then MacArthur is running this way. Let me back up.
Right.
So this is Highway D, County Road D here, and then this is MacArthur here. And this is where the Francines are. That's where the Hansons are. The Ericksons are right here.
Yep.
On D.
And it goes all the way over to.
Yeah. This was Carbo has owned this land for the last 6 years. They bought that from the Hanson property. It's this very right along that border there. And then the Helgerson land is this land that goes like right around here like that. And then that Francine, we purchased the corner from the Francine property too. So this is kind of the 5-foot contours that shows you how this is contoured. This is fairly high up here, like 1230, and this is a lowland over here. And what we'll be doing is taking the resource out of this area here and gradually going in from both sides to create this wetland. Now, the plant that we have is going to be located here, but we think this would be a great area for like a park shelter or a boat landing or picnic tables. But this shoreline all around here can be developed really however we want to develop it. We're moving some 3 million tons of topsoil around here, so there's a lot of material to develop these shorelines however we want to develop them. This is how the environmental people think we should develop them. And it's a really pretty good start. So if you look at this cross section right here, if you want to see the depth of that lake, so if you're looking across that cross section over there, that's what this next slide is. So you can't really read these numbers, but like this is like 1175, and the water table is about 1190 to 1200. So the water level goes across like this, and so we're talking about 20 to 25 feet of water in the deepest portion. And this is some of the overburden as you go to the west, as you go to the east, then it gets more shallow. So when we talk about wetland, we're talking about this area over here. We talk about lake, we're talking about this area. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we're going to create this. We're going to have a sand processing plant right here. This next slide shows you where it's at. This is the plant right here. There's some pine trees here. All these pine trees that you see from the road, we're not going to move those. We're going to tuck our plant behind there so that you don't even see us when you drive by. I mean, I think if you look for us, you'll find us. This is a stockpile. So this blue here is where we put a lot of our product as we produce it. Because we stockpile enough to get through the winter. Because we don't operate throughout the whole year. We just operate during the warm weather. Because it's all a wet plant. So all the sand that we're dealing with, the way we wash it with water, we don't use detergent or anything like that. It's just washing the sand in water. So the plant will go right in here, and each of these sections here, we'll do one of those a year. This next slide, this shows where the berms are. So the first thing we're going to do, and we want to get this in this fall, is put some fairly high berms in. This berm helps protect the Ericksons. This is like a 20 to 25 foot berm here. These berms along here are to help isolate us, from people, along MacArthur Road. These are more like 10 to 15 feet berms over here. So we use the berms just to, to shelter us. Our goal is not even to be heard, not even to be seen. Tuck ourselves behind those pine trees and so we don't bother people. Because we realize that we come in and we can be a nuisance. We try to minimize that wherever we can. So this kind of shows you the mining operation. To excavate this out, we'll just be using an excavator, and we'll be running that just during the day. And each of these areas is about 10 acres. They vary from, there's one that's about 8 acres, there's one 11 acres, and that's about how much we do every year. So we do 10 acres a year. And we're not going to do the whole thing. You're not going to see one big open pit because we're going to reclaim it 10 acres at a time. If you go around and look at some of these other mines, you'll find, a couple hundred acres all open. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do temporarily open it, and the next year, as we open up the second one, we're going to be moving all the overburden and reclaiming the one that we did last year. So you never see more than 10 acres that go unclaimed. That's just open as an eyesore. So the first part of this is excavation. The second part is we move using conveyors. We're not going to be using road trucks, but we're going to convey over to the crushing plant. We're fortunate that this land has really soft sandstone. In fact, you can barely call it sandstone. When you scoop it up with an excavator, about 75% of it falls into sand. And we're just left with chunks about this big, and we throw those through an impact crusher that throws it against a wall to liberate all the sand. So that's the crushing part. And that will only go on during the day too. And then this is the main plant, and we're looking at putting this inside of a building. And this stockpile here is what the output of the crusher. So we'll have enough sand there to run the plant through the night. It's not a real loud plant, and It's just, it's washing the sand, there's some screens that sort out the road course stuff, and there's like a big washing machine that, with paddles that wash it within the water to really clean the sand, and then we put it up on the side pile. And we'll be trucking it out. We're looking at coming in with 3 trucks. We'd like to be able to run these 3 trucks 22 hours a day. We shut the trucks down during school, pick up and drop off times, so we don't even bother, the school bus, during that time. But by doing it day and night, we can come in with 3 trucks, and that's all the trucks we need to haul out our product.
3 trucks in 22 hours, that's it?
Probably.
3 trucks in the 22 hours?
Right. Yeah, so we're not coming out.
Yeah, but how many loads is that?
It's not 3.
Not 3
trips. Yeah, that's 3 trucks rotating for 22 hours.
Well, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to Marshfield and coming back. Marshfield and back.
Does it collect quads or?
They're long end dumps. You'll
Okay.
see our trucks on the road. We have 3 trucks now, and right now we have like a fleet of 15 trucks, and not all our trucks rail. They haul our sand out, but we're going a much larger distance. We're not a real huge sand mine like a Smart Sand or High Crush. We're really kind of on the smaller scale of things. Some people, I talked to some people, I thought were coming in with 30 trucks running between here and Marshfield. That would be almost insane.
Is there a waste sand that hauled out of there too? Or
There'll be some. I mean, we'll probably look
something
at.
else hauls that or?
No, we would haul that. We have 1 dump truck, and we have provided waste sand to farmers for bedding sand. We'll probably get into that again. This is sand that's not really, the coarseness for, the marketplace for the oil fields. So it's pretty common. We'll probably get into providing some. So it'll be another dump truck on the road that would be delivering, just a few loads a day. Going to farmers. All right.
We contracted to someone else to come.
No, we would do that. We have our own dump truck. It's a quad X dump truck. And we would deliver sand to farmers. Large dairy farmers, they use sand. I don't know if you know it, but they use sand for bedding. Yeah.
Question? How many trucks a day are you anticipating rotating out of that plant?
Well, I have to go through the calculations, but you'd see a truck probably every 20 minutes. And we can take a route. We can take 2 routes. We're a mile point, 1.1 miles off of 10. So we'll take an immediate north route and then go down 10. And we may come back that way, or we may go around. We really haven't decided that. We could go N, B, and N, and then up when they're empty. But mostly we'll probably go 10 and then down to 1 mile on B. That's the most strict route.
The county roads.
The county roads, yeah. We'll never be on a township road. You never want to be on a township road. They're just not built for the trucks. And we talked to the highway commissioner of Wood County, and they're going to upgrade D, which is going to be great to increase the weight load capability of D. They were going to do that anyway, just to replace the payment, and they can do a little bit more just on that 1 mile section north of us to make it heavier so it stands up, with the trucks.
Just to add to that, that's not coming from the taxpayer dole. We'll pay for the extra amount of money to upgrade that road.
Right. They said that's an option, we can upgrade it on our own dime.
So, based on your opening presentation where you're talking about us having a park and a duck area and all that other stuff, if I did my calculations right, we wouldn't see that until 14 years down the road, correct?
Well, you see it 10 acres at a time. So at the end of next year, you'll see 10 acres of it. And then the next year, you see 20, and then 30 and 40. Yeah, because there's 14 of these sections. So we'll do this one here first, and then we'll come over here and then kind of go this way, and then back. This one gets done last. And then this was very last. This is second to last, and this one, we back up. Right, so this is the order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'd be developed like this.
Well, I'm gonna be 70 years old. How much am I gonna enjoy that?
I know. Well, I'm gonna be 67. I'm planning to live until 90. How about you?
My lungs
You
hold
also
out.
be a chicken by then.
My lungs hold out.
If we could please,
But really, I want to make this a community project. You know, I want to develop a healthy relationship with you guys and form an ad hoc group so we can get more input. This is from, you know, environmental people that have worked on this, and that's one thing. That's all really good. I mean, I can show you a table later on in the presentation of, you know, 16 seed variety of the type of wetland, you know, grasses that we're supposed to put in there. But is that the best, you know, to attract geese and ducks? And, you know, I mean, I think we can make this into a community project. Make it constructive.
You know, the park concept looks wonderful, but in fact, isn't it private property that you can do whatever you want with when you're finished there?
Well, we've been,
Sell for development or whatever it might be.
right, so we've been talking about that, you know, Steve and I talked about that again today. And we are looking at donating this land to the county.
Wow.
Or maybe the township wants it, maybe the township doesn't want it because then they'll have to maintain it. But it'd really be cool for the county to take this over and become a county park. And that's why we get some input. I mean, there could be campsites along these shorelines here. You know, we don't have to excavate all of it either. I mean, I think what comes first is how we're going to leave this, not how much sand. I tell my people it's not so important that we make sand. It's important how we make sand. Well, it's not so important that we get all the sand out of this. It's what's going to be important is what we leave afterwards. We can leave a legacy to our kids of really a nice developed area. When I get on Google, first, you know, we got this idea because we got on Google and started looking around, and you see little ponds here, little ponds there. You know, Don has a pond in his backyard. You go just, you know, west of here, the little pond. There's a lot of nice sculptured ponds around because this is a wetland area. How neat would it be to have like a 160-acre lake and wetland area? And it was mentioned to me earlier today that we can provide, you know, some special provisions so that the people that invest in this can have some rights in it. Like, I haven't heard of this, but they were saying that they've seen areas where, you know, someone that contributes a lot to the way this plant could have this little parcel right here. And say, that's my duck hunting spot right there. I'm gonna pick out my spot. Anyway. So when does this start? You got a question with David?
Yeah. You mentioned that they're going to repair B or upgrade County Trunk B, correct?
B. It's Victor.
V.
B is in Victor.
Okay.
What we'd like to do is start putting some fencing up. We're not going to fence the whole thing, but we'll fence some areas like the gate area and areas where there aren't berms. There are some areas that cross wetlands. We can't put a berm across a wetland, but we can put a fence across a wetland.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Before we move on? You're talking about running the trucks 22 hours. So you're gonna have 2 hours where they won't be running. What is the time of running, like say in the morning you're attending those first trucks to leave?
Well, it depends on when the kids get picked up. Yeah, I think probably
Our
kids get
daughter gets picked up at 20 after 6.
20 after 6,
And
okay.
we're just south of the Erickson.
So we'd be off the road then, and then after that, then we'd be back on the roads.
Doug, if I could please step in.
Yeah.
Once again, I just want to reiterate that this is informational. They've applied for everything that they're showing tonight is what the company is proposing to the township and the residents. There's, you know, so there's a number of steps that have to go through this yet. So what you're seeing here is their best concept, what they are looking for. The town, because of our conditional use permit and our zoning, we can regulate a lot of the mining, anything that goes on at this property. So you have to remember that. We'll be having subsequent meetings, like I said, you know, so a lot of these questions are important, but, you know, and it's very nice that we get the input, but we will also be, you know, establishing a citizens committee on something with this also, that for when they have the to come up with the final conditional use provisions, you know, that's acceptable for the township and acceptable for the proposed mine site, you know. So I just want to reiterate that.
What becomes of the tailings from the washing process?
Well, they go back into reclamation. Some of them would be used for dairy farm bedding. So, but the others, the ones that are finer than like 140 mesh, those actually go back into the reclamation, into the lake along the shoreline. So we'll be building these shorelines so they're nice and contoured using all those fines. The first thing we do is there's what they call the topsoil. You put that in berms off to the side. And you put your tailings down, and then as you reclaim, you put overburden in, and then you come in with the topsoil again and put the topsoil down. And then right after you do that, then you have to seed it right away before it starts to erode. So everything goes back. There's about 3 million tons of that reclaimed material that we can use. So it's like we're taking 10 tons out, but keeping 3 tons back in to contour the, you know, the shorelines and everything like that.
Where's the water come from? High capacity wells, or where's the water coming from?
Well, we're hoping we don't need high capacity wells. You know, the mine that we're currently at, we're close to groundwater there. So the first thing we're going to do is put in a pond right here and dig it deep enough so we just draw water from that. We don't use a lot of water. Initially we need water to fill everything up, but everything gets recycled through the plant. So it's not like we're, you know, taking out of the ground continually like at 1,000 gallons per minute. If we have like, you know, maybe a 7 gallon per minute well, and I don't know if we even need that, we'll know here soon enough whether we need that, because we're going to put some monitoring wells in here. But I'm thinking we probably get most of our water just from the groundwater. I mean, there's water sitting right there. That's a pond right there. So we probably just pull on the groundwater.
And does the private monitoring system monitor you guys, or who monitors your working with?
We have, there's 2 things that we do. Number one, we have our own monitoring wells. And we take samples out of those regularly, and we take levels so we know what level. So if we start drawing water, we can see if the water table is, you know, going up and down. And that's actually done with transducers that you know, have transponders in them, so we can see what the water level is every 15 minutes. So that's one thing we do. The other thing we do is we test all the drinking water wells within a quarter mile. So I've got a slide later on in the presentation. So before we do anything, then we'll do all samples, you know, on the surrounding wells, you know, the homes around this property up to a quarter mile away, and there's probably 15 of those, and we just get a baseline, and then every year we take samples of that just to make sure nothing's changing, because, you know, water is important. It's a very important resource. And as we go down in there, we want to continually to monitor the condition of the groundwater. We're not really going to get in the aquifer here. You know, most wells, if you take a look at all the well data online, they're down around 80 feet. We're going to go down about 30 feet. The real drinking water aquifer is down around 80 feet underground here. And we're taking off, you know, about 30 feet. So we have kind of an upper. I was talking to the geologist just last week about this. He said, well, no one ever wants to be in the top aquifer, you know. There's so much pesticides from all the farming that's been done in that top aquifer. You'd be crazy to put a well only like 30 feet down. You really want to get down to the 80-foot water where the water is much more pure. So we'd put the driveway in. We would clear the processing area. We'd clear that off so it's nice and flat and get that ready for the spring. And then we'd take the topsoil off of this area and then this area, and that's what we'd build the berms with. There's plenty of topsoil here and overburden in these 2 areas to build all these berms. And then we'd be ready for the spring. Then we'd shut down for the winter and then come back in the spring. And in the spring, we'd move in our mobile equipment and erect the plant. So we'll be moving the plant that we currently have. If anyone wants to see our current plant, it's over, you know, west of here, just north of Maryland. If you do a search online, you can see it online. Do a search on Doc's Bunkhouse. So right now we're creating a pond in a campground. And you'll see campers, and the campers are moving in as we're reclaiming it. It's almost uncomfortable how quickly they're moving in on this. When we first moved into this campground, there were like 5 campers. Now I think he's got 75 campers in there, RVs. I think they're gonna miss us when we leave because they kind of enjoy watching the whole process. And then we begin processing sand in May. And we'd be doing this for at least 12 to 14 years. And whether we do it sooner or later, it really depends on the marketplace. 10 years is a long time. 12 years is a long time in the oil business. How things come and go. Booms and busts. Within the whole. But we're making more oil today than we ever have before. We're now approaching like 11 million barrels per day, and we've become the biggest exporter of petroleum and natural gas in the world. So this is this reclamation plan. And like I say, I just really want to stress, this plan is not complete until I get your input. Your input can really shape what we leave here to our kids. And I want to be able to enjoy this lake too, as we go. Just give you some idea, what's in this 451 pages. Like this is a table that the geologists put together, the environmental people. This is all the seed varieties and all the percentages. So we'll go to, a seed company and say, we want this particular mix. I mean, that's how detailed this plan is. So then you might ask, eventually someone's going to ask, well, what happens if you go out of business? Well, we have to put up money with the county. It's the county that really protects the land, The township is really here to protect your well-being. And then the county, they're overseeing this to make sure that they're protecting the land. And, one of their criteria is, this reclamation plan is for the county and for the township, is they look at this and say, okay, well, what if something happens to you and you've got, 30 acres here that haven't been reclaimed? It's just straight walls and it's been dug out, it's an eyesore. We need you to put money in the bank. So we'll be putting like $55,000 into an account that they can draw on if something would happen to us that we can't touch. So that if something would happen to us, that they could pull that money just like that, call the bankers, and they'll have it, and they'll be able to hire third-party contractors to come in and reclaim it without us. So that's what we do to protect the land.
If I can add, Doug, that number is an estimate. The final number will be determined by Wood County Land Conservation and non-negotiable. So whatever they tell us we need to have in the bank, we will have.
Yeah. So this is kind of an aerial of the different wells that are around the property. This line here is a quarter mile from line boundary. The red line that you see here, actually this is a green line, looks green here, is the mine boundary, and the quarter mile outside of that are all these wells that we'll be monitoring. The most important wells are the ones to the south here, because the groundwater runs this way and this way. Now, there aren't too many people here, but there's a few people right in here, like the Ericksons, it flows this way. These upstream wells aren't, they're of less interest, but we'll be monitoring them anyway.
How often do you take samples?
Annually, yeah. We'll be taking those, we'll take those initially before we do any mining, and we'll be taking those wells annually. Our monitoring wells are before wells, like there's one here, here, and over here. We'll be sampling them once a month. And then we'll be sending in water samples to the lab. They'll come back with a chemical analysis. I should show you the page. I mean, it's a paragraph about this big in the report of all the different things that they're testing for.
How deep are those monitoring wells?
Those are probably about 40 feet. Yeah, we don't want to go any deeper. They told us to just go 40 feet. You don't want to get into the aquifer underneath you, because that would just flood it with real pure clean water, and then we wouldn't get a good indication of the area that we're mining in, which is like 30 feet.
So all that hardwood there, you're gonna level it?
No, none of this hardwood. The only hardwood that we would take out would be, there's a little bit right here that we may or may not take out. So this is not part, this green is, that's the mine boundary there. So really the only woods we have is this pine trees, and we're gonna use that to hide behind. And then this little area right here. This is the maple grove that Don has. He said, you can't touch my maple grove because it gets maple syrup from that every year. So no, we're not gonna touch that.
Regarding wells, we'll test all private wells prior to any mining activity takes place. That data, that's not done by us, that's done by a private party. We'll usually a plumbing or local plumbing or testing service complete with a chain of custody. We don't have any participation in it, we just contract with them. They send us the results, we will share all those results with the property owners, with the well owners, in addition with the township.
What happens if there's contamination? What do you do? What's your-
Well, what we'll be doing, what we need to do is establish a baseline first, so we'll, that's why we'll test before any mining activities take place, so you'll know what the condition of your well is before we get here.
Yes, but if there were to be contamination after you get here, what do you do in that situation?
Well, then we'll have to determine source of the contamination and work back from there. I mean, it could be, we had a specific example of that when it turned out we traced it back to lead in the person's pipes. You know, it didn't come from us. So it'll depend. I mean, obviously we need to respond to it. And it wouldn't be us investigating. It would be the, the regulatory people would be the ones that would be investigating.
Okay, so a hypothetical question, and you're dancing around this. If you were the ones to contaminate that well, if you are the source, what do you do?
Well, I'll tell you what we would do. I can't tell you specifically what we would do, but we would be responding to the DNR. There's so much compliance related to doing something like this nowadays. So like Kenny works full-time on compliance. You know, he knows the DNR people, Brad Johnson. That would be a good question to Brad. Brad, what if this happens? What would the DNR recommend that you do? They are there to protect the waters and the airs. So the DNR is there for your well, to protect our water and also our air. The county's there to protect, you know, what the land, and that's left in a respectable way. And then the township is here to protect you. So there are a lot of regulatory things related to protecting our wetlands, the quality of our groundwater. But if you really want, you know, to get a good answer on that question, is specific. You want to talk to Brad Johnson, because that's what we would call, say, with Brad, we would call the DNR and say, okay, we got this problem, something's showing up. What do we do about it? You know.
Okay.
So we've asked him that questions on things, and he said, well, we really haven't seen that to be a problem so far. But, you know, there's always the first time. You know.
So you're not required at all to put any money in escrow to protect the well? So you guys are off the hook, then DNR has to deal with us? Are you gonna do any dynamiting in that pit?
No.
As of this
No.
point?
No,
But if you can't get deep enough, what's gonna stop you? Because there's enough of that in the townships already.
Well, I mean, I was concerned about that when we started this whole project. So what we did is we went in here and we bored 12 different holes down about 60 feet with well drills, and we took samples. We had a geologist out there for probably at least 10 days, and he documented, and it's in this report, you know, what he found, and it's like 90% of it is soft sandstone. And then I said, okay, what's soft sandstone? So we took an excavator out there about a month ago, and we dug down with the excavator, you know, 25 feet, and it is soft. And I did talk to blasting people, wondering, because there's some really hard sandstone not too far from here. You can go 10 miles and you can get into some really hard sandstone. And yeah, we were very fortunate. The guy in the excavator kept saying, never seen such soft sandstone. And since we've done that many borings, we've done 12 borings on this property. I think I have a slide I can show you all the borings. We really, I don't think we'll never be doing any blasting. I mean, if we come upon, and we probably come upon some hard sandstone, we'll just push that off the side. I think the guy from the blasting company said, well, there's nothing we could do because we need really hard stuff that, first of all, to drill a hole. If we even tried to drill a hole, it would collapse on us. So it's a good problem to have. You know, we're glad that we don't have to do any blasting. on this. And that's what further makes it really attractive, you know, as a sand mine, you know, to be able to restore something, you know, with this soft material.
So the softer the sand, the bigger the dust?
No, everything stays wet. We're fortunate that way. So all the sand stays wet, it's washed wet. You know, if you think of really fine particles, think of dirty water. Basically, fine particles is dirty water. If you took that water and dried it completely out, it would take a lot of energy to dry it all out. But that's where all the fine stuff is, you know. If you feel the water, you can't really feel the particles, but there are really small particles in there that just make water dirty. And that will all be just put back in the lake and it will settle down to the bottom. So we're fortunate. I'm glad I'm not in the drying business now. Steve, he's the one, when we take it to Marshfield, I'm talking about Steve Lanier, he's with Carbo, they do the drying in Marshfield. So they take the sand and they put it through a dryer, they first dry it out, and then they get it ready for final processing before they put it into rail cars to send to the oil fields. So we don't have anything, we won't do any of that here.
Will there be testing as far as dust control? And
It's something that we test. In fact, we do that to protect the people that are working there. We're required. That's the other compliant issue, is this to protect the health of our people that work there. So there's a division of the Department of Labor called MSHA. They come and do random inspections yearly, and they have all kinds of programs. One program, you know, one is for the noise, so we have a noise protection program. Another is for dust. And so our employees, we have 1 or 2 employees every year. They go around their whole shift. They have this little filter mechanism here that's sucking, you know, air in, any particulates in all the time. And then we send that into a laboratory. And then that documents, you know, the kind of environment they're in. And we have never got any silicon dust ever to show up because we're ice and wet.
Never?
Never.
when you say weed, is it just include?
Well, I've been in this
or-
business for about, I'm talking about just our mine.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I've been doing this is going on the 5th year, so I've been in this business for about, and we have a mine. If you ever want to go see our mine, you know, just Google Doc's Bunkhouse, and if you want a tour of it, we have to give you a tour. That's basically the little plant that we're bringing over here. Yeah.
So if we have a problem with dust or noise or the trucks or anything, will we have a phone number to call you guys, or do we have to go through DNR and all that other? Or are we gonna have a direct contact that can resolve the problem versus having to go through all these different organizations to possibly not get any results?
Well, I think what I'd like to do is just give you my number. You know, go right to the source and say you have a problem with noise. And maybe we would then, you know, bring Pete in and say, let's get together, let's do what we need to do to, you know, solve this issue.
Because my noise tolerance might be different than yours.
Right, yeah. Like Don came over to our mine, and he said, this thing is really quiet, but he's 93 years old. And it's getting quieter for me too, you know. It's like, this plant's not as noisy as it used to be.
How about lights and?
Yeah, that question's not, we don't really operate with, we have like 3 lights that hang on the plant. They're about this big around, they hang down. You know, they got, so I should get the looms, I don't know what looms they are, but we really don't operate with that much lights. It's not like a ballpark, you know. And we're not gonna be, you know, doing the excavation during the night. That's gonna shut down. It's good for us to take a break. We don't work on Sunday. That's just an ethical thing. We're just not gonna do it. We don't even apply for it, so we're not even tempted to work on Sunday.
But your truck's running 22 hours.
Not on Sunday, no.
Mine is Sunday. You might not excavate or do the mining, but the trucks will continue to run for 22 hours.
That's at full capacity, you know. And we're not always at full capacity.
What percent of the time are you at full capacity in the road?
Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Steve? He's the one that buys the sand.
Yeah. Well, we've been probably, I want to say 10 months we've been full capacity. We were down for, I don't know if you guys follow oil and gas at all, but you know, late 2016 into early 17, maybe part of 2015, we were down entirely. for about a 15-month period until the price of oil kind of came back up, and then we were able to ramped up and ran full-time for the last few months. But right now it's slowing down again. We've turned production off at the plant in Marshfield. This is the second week. So we'll see how that plays out.
So you're saying 6 days a week, 22 hours, maybe up to 10 months in full capacity?
So we're talking about my plant is different from his plant. In Marshfield, when we're at full capacity, we run 24/7. But I have 3 sand mines that supply the plant in Marshfield. By the way, I'll just make a minor correction. You said I was the CEO, but I'm not. I'm the plant manager, aspiring to be. Bad chance. But so I manage the plant in Marshfield, and I've been there since the beginning. And we have 3 plants that each it takes that much sand to feed the plant in Marshfield. So this is one of the 3. We also pull sand from the Marwood Construction Company out on H, between Marshfield and Christie. And then another plant down toward Vesper, John Overthaler and Hanson guys down there. So it's 3 plants. So we pull from those 3, and then as the market changes, we adjust how much comes in from each of those plants.
And it's only in certain months of the year, right?
No, he only washes certain months. He only washes during the warm weather.
Okay.
But we can dry all year, so he puts up enough that gets us through the winter.
So the sand you're hauling out of here is pretty much damp sand? Okay.
Now, when we put it on the stockpile, it's about 15% moisture.
Okay.
And then it decants down to about 4%. We have to let it sit there several days before we can ship it to Marshfield. Steve doesn't want real wet sand, so we gotta wait for it to, and then it usually equalizes out around 4% moisture. It just sits there. It's kind of hard to deal with because it's wet. You can't put it in a truck that just has a scoop that you can open and it just sits there. It's just,
Is it gonna stay at that percentage through the winter months when it's stockpiled and drier?
Well, yeah, I mean, it does ice up on top at times, you get, especially if you get snow and then it melts, and then you get ice forming, and then, the loader could create a high wall, because it's kind of frozen on top. So a lot of it depends on the moisture through the winter too. A lot of times it will kind of cap it and seal it, in the wintertime. Other times, it just depends on the wind and weather.
Roger, you're in 12 hours a day, how many trucks an hour?
Well, it'd be the same. I mean, we have a certain number of tons that we are shipping out. So our full capacity is 600,000 tons a year, running around the year. So we've seen this done other places where you cut the number of trucks in half. And some people just say, well, why don't you just run through the night when we're all sleeping? And I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. And some people do that just so we're not noticed as much. Now, we don't want to keep anyone up either. That's the other thing. Maybe there's a light sleeper. We got like 1.1 miles to get up being as quiet as we can at night, not bother anyone. So we need all their input to make sure we can do that. If we can't do that, then we'll just bring in 6 trucks and run just during the day.
That's what I meant. You would double the
Yeah,
trucks.
right.
When is your next scheduled meeting? Do you have that planned out yet?
No, we do not, because it's like I stated, we have to publicize. It has to be 10 days. So we have to publicize it for 10 days at its public meeting. And so I anticipate, probably 15 days from now. But the township, and I feel that residents need to know. And so the township will be putting it on a website, mass emails, but also posting out for the very first meeting. We'll send out postcards to every landowner, not resident, every landowner within the mile, 1.5 mile, just for that, so that if it's a landowner that's a, you know, they're vacationing, whatever, like the Ericksons, they're not here all the time, you know, here's gonna be the first meeting, and at that meeting, then we'll set the subsequent next meeting, because, you know, like I said, the time is kicking now, so we, you know, we wanna get it going, so. And like I said, what you're seeing tonight is, you know, their wish list. Now the town now we have to say, you know, Santa Claus is gonna take something out of the bag, so we'll have to find out where we go, so yes.
When did you find out about this?
I found out personally in June when Kenny Crooks called me, he called me to find out about some of the zoning regulations and everything else. That's when I was alerted to the fact that there was a possibility of a frac sand mine coming up here. That was in June. That was my first contact. We've been in contact ever since. And it's on record, I've come to every time that I'm at a board meeting, I've said that we've been in contact with them. More information will follow as we got it. At this point, I do understand that there's been a number of meetings with the residents in the area. They've gone out. The mining company, Doug and Kenny, they've come out and they've met with the residents. The residents at this point are more informed than the board is. You know, because of all the meetings that they've had with you. Okay, the board, you want us to represent you, we need to be able to represent you. Okay, that's the thing, we need to be able to represent you. I appreciate the fact that they're coming out and they're talking to the residents. The residents were calling their neighbors and saying, they're coming, I want you to be here. But not once was, to my knowledge, was a supervisor or myself notified that they were coming to talk with individuals until after the fact. We were here last night. It's tough to represent the constituents of the township when that happens. So that's everything, any contact that I've had has been I put it on, not on the agenda, but I've stated that I've had more contact. Infant stages, they've done this, I've been out here, I've talked with them. More information will follow as we receive it. Yes?
You said the clock's ticking.
Yes.
You have 60 days?
60 days from the time that they filed. Actually, they filed on Monday, but according to the ordinance, the filing doesn't become effective until they pay their filing fee, which they have. This evening, they paid their filing fee.
What happens when the clock runs out?
The township has to make a decision within 60 days. As far as the zoning committee, the zoning ordinance, everything else, the determination has to be made at 60 days. The township can request an extension with reasonable conditions, you know, but not an indefinite reasonable.
Who's reasonable conditions? The boards?
Yeah, the zoning committee, and agreeable to both the applicant and the board, right, and the zoning committee. So.
Okay, so just throwing it out there, what if you guys are prepared after 60 days?
If we're not prepared, or we are prepared?
If you're not prepared, you know, do you just, oh, okay, here you go, guys?
No, we can either deny it, we can say, if we're not prepared at 60 days, that's the thing. And our ordinance spells a lot of that out. So, yes.
So what information needs to be decided? Is this a done deal? Is this going in on hell or high water? Or
Nope.
is this,
As I stated, this is conceptual. This is what they want to do. This is what they want to do. The township and the board, the zoning committee and the board has the right to say yes or no. Yes, this is, like I said, that's like I stated, this is informational. This is what they would like to do. This is their best case scenario.
So then that's one heck of a gamble for this company. They're coming in, I'm sure they paid a pretty penny for this land under the contingency that we may not get what we want. Or am I missing something?
The company purchased the Hanson property 6-7 years ago. That was purchased by Carbo Ceramics. At that point, I don't believe that there was it was a transfer of property. Carbo Ceramics, just as if I sold my property to Mark Kutzenberger. Transfer of property. You know, what happens to the land after it's purchased, that is up to the owner. Okay? You know, but since it's coming into a mining situation, a possible mining situation, the town of Rock in 2016 adopted all of the zoning ordinances. And there is a mining overlay district, which is, and that falls under our conditional use permit. So the township truly has a lot of meat. They've got a lot of teeth that's backed by our ordinance. As far as, you know, do they come in? Do they not come in? How do they operate? Hours of operation. How many trucks they run. It's all negotiable. And it's, you know, I understand that the pneumatic NIMBY, not in my backyard. That's, you hear that continually when it comes to the frac mining. Or anything like that. You have to realize that this area here is not the only possible site. When they were talking here, when we were talking and they said, well, the Marwood pit up on Highway H runs 24/7. I said, that's Clark County. 1 mile that way is Clark County. You know, this is Wood County, this is the town of Rock. We have zoning. I spoke with a number of people down in Jackson County. I spoke with the county supervisor, county agent, I've been spending a lot of time in this, just researching for the town and everything else, because I want to know too. I've made a number of phone calls and read through, believe it or not, I believe I'm on page 421 on that 456-page document. And that's not in my backyard. We as the board, as the zoning members, we think of not just for the betterment of my backyard, but we have to think of everyone in the town. And I hope that you all understand that and realize that. That's why it's coming to this. We have procedures that we have to follow. Until they filed for the conditional use permit, you know, it was infant stages, like I said. The information that we had was the information that I got, and that's all we could do, public record. You know, now it's here. Now this is their proposal. Now it's time for us that we can sit and, like I said, trade on balances or do what's best for the town. Be good neighbors, as they appear that they would like to be also. You know, the companies that are involved, be good neighbors, and, you know, get together so that it's whatever's best, period. Yes.
So is the board going to solicit from the homeowners and the landowners their consensus as to whether we would want this or not, and then make a decision based on, you know, everybody?
Absolutely, because that's when with the conditional use and the variance hearings, we schedule those hearings. 10-day notice, publicly in the paper. 10-day notice, all residents are available to attend. Give us your thoughts, and that's what we need to do. We write them down, the zoning board goes, consideration, look at it, new proposal. Here you go. Here's what you proposed, here we go. On the table. Back and forth.
If the town, if everybody in here says no, is the board going to support a no?
That is, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. I can't say that. Because, how do we know that everybody's going to say no?
No, again,
exactly.
Just like she did, you know, if
Right.
everybody in here, or
Right.
say 90% of everybody in here says no to this,
Right.
is the board going to support the homeowners and the landowners to say, no, we're sorry, but we don't want this in our backyard?
Well, I can say that the town will support. However, the town also has to realize they have to have cause. There is mining. Go on the Wisconsin, trust me, go on the Wisconsin Towns Association website. There is a whole section on mining, non-metallic, non-ferrous mining. And in order to deny permits, just cause, DNR regulations have to show, there's a whole list of things that are needed for the town to truly say no without having any legal ramifications where the township is forced to concede everything.
So someone's gonna go through that and take a look at that, and, I mean, is the committee gonna say, okay, let's look at this and make sure that everything, all the ducks are in the row?
Absolutely.
But I live right down the street, and I haven't seen these guys or heard anybody, come by. Everybody's saying they're talking to people. Nobody's come knocking on my door.
So you didn't receive a phone call from the neighbors? You're one of the few.
Yeah, I did.
So,
I got a question, Pete.
yes.
Have you looked into, they put a proposal together, whatever, and Wood County has to approve it. And so can the state or Wood County can actually come in and say, we don't care what the town of Rock says, this is going through this way?
No, because the township has zoning ordinances. Because the town of Brock has zoning ordinances. That what happened down in Saratoga with the high-capacity wells and the big farm down there. Town of Saratoga was approached, conditional use permit was put in. They said, no, we don't want it. The residents said, no, we don't want it. They weren't zoned, so they started fighting for the zoning right away. The application was prior to the fact. Doesn't matter. That's why they were awarded the mega farm down in town of Saratoga. The county backs the local zoning ordinances, which is big. Town of Alma, I know, did not have zoning. They do now. They do now. Well, no, they do not. They still do not have zoning. They do not have any zoning. And there's mines going up all over down there. It's, but I will, on a personal note, I should let you finish with your presentation if nothing, but like I said, this is all, this is their wish list. When the clock is ticking, I said, yes, we have 60 days, informational meetings, public input. Here's what we need. Here's what we bring back to the table. We bring that. They come back, public meeting. Here's concessions, back and forth. We try and make it work for industry, try and make it work for the township and the residents. Residents and the township and the industry. Yes?
How would that be taxed then?
How would that be taxed?
Yeah.
I have not checked into that yet. I have to apologize for that.
Town of Rock get a little bit more money? Does Town of Rock get a little bit more money?
That is all negotiable. That can be negotiated with the, as the tonnage that comes out. It can be, yes. That can be with the tonnage that comes out. Yes, the township can benefit from this. We need petroleum to drive our cars. We like to drive on roads. You bet. Yes.
It seems like it's kind of turning into like a question and answer session. Is this like a formal question and answer session?
No, I'm sorry, this is not public comment. This is just, I just stood up, I'm sorry.
Like point of order, that's all.
That's, yes. Thank you very, very much. Yes, point of order, yes. Continue on with the presentation, because we
Well, actually,
this,
that's the last slide. Probably a good one to end with. And, I just throw out the invitation, and we want to work with you. We want to do it. And I'm looking forward to sitting down with a lot of you. In fact, what we'll do is we'll put a sheet of paper on the way out on the desk, sign your name and your phone number, and we'll be giving you a call. And we can sit across the kitchen table and talk about this. I mean, if you don't have information, then you start fearing the worst thing. I know I do that, coming into this, I was just fearing the worst thing.
Well, if you're going to do that, then like Pete just said, before meetings are going on without the board's knowledge, would you contact the board?
How do you want us to handle that? Is it okay?
Yes, from this point forward, yes, we'll have the informational meetings, and yes, our zoning board and our informational meetings, yes, and we'll back and forth at this point, yes, because you've approached with your plan, and now we would with our zoning board would be the appropriate.
So I guess it gets a little more formal from here on.
Right.
But Pete, you can set some things up. I think we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk more about this.
Pete, the more that they meet with personal people one-on-one, it's going to have the effect of what the ordinance committee or the town board sees will be two separate stories. I think they all should be here in one open meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what.
And no more,
that's just what I said.
Across the fence talking.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Right.
Just want to verify that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Informational, very much. And,
project to us. So I would like to respectfully ask that we've talked about the fact of a committee being represented by the different interests, town, mine, municipal, public, private, that you respectfully consider adopting that, and we get people on that committee that can have that input, and I will be the first volunteer for the committee.
Thank you. That's what one thing I apologize I was going to state. I forgot to say tonight as you signed in, if you'd be interested in, we need your address, but please email the town, email us, or let us know, write down, get to myself or Jill or any of the board members as soon as possible. If you would like to serve on the committee, we'll make a selection of a diverse group of the area residents. Absolutely, yes.
A minute left, and I will just add. I'm guilty as one of the people that has had conversations, and they feel productive, right? But it's words, and we all need, as neighbors, to have a good outcome from this. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Eric Nelson of 11511 Eisenhower Drive, which has forests and fields all along it. Our town zoning charter states that its purpose is to promote health, safety, aesthetics, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare to the town of Rock. Our general intent of our town zoning is to regulate and restrict the use of structures, lands, and waters, provide adequate air, sanitation, drainage, stabilize and protect property values, conserve natural resources, and preserve agricultural character of the town of Rock. I'm here asking today that the town board allow more time for us to understand the 500-page conditional use permit just submitted by Carbo and Cooley Frac. As elected representatives vested to protect the citizens of the town of Rock, please grant us, community members, time to understand and express our concerns. 45 days or 60 days, I just heard tonight, is really not enough. As frac sand mining is not part of our established agricultural character, there are some questions that it raises. How will the dust really affect our air? What will happen to the quality and quantity of our shared aquifer? How about the protection of our first responders who will rush in if there's a problem? Like recently in one of the settlement ponds, someone got stuck and they had to let go of chemical water. These are questions, are examples of some of the concerns in our community. The very nature of frac sand mining is alien to us. That is why I'm asking that our town board please consider the Wisconsin Township Association's handbook for non-ferrous mining suggestion to form a local impact committee before approval is granted for mining to begin. A local impact committee is an open meeting type of committee that allows stakeholders to be good neighbors and to define and resolve issues before they are problems. Cooley Frac has been a neighbor meeting with other people in their homes to share information. The local impact committee would be a more effective way to share information as it will reach a greater amount of people due to the public nature of its meeting. The other role of the local impact committee is that it allows the members of the Town of Rock Board to have a consolidated list of concerns and some problem solving which would be done ahead of time for you to act upon. The intent is not to halt or prevent, it is rather to establish what our rural culture requires for its preservation. It is reasonable to allow citizens of our township to help the board promote health, safety, the aesthetics, comfort, prosperity, and the general welfare of the town of Rock. And I too would like to be a person on your committee.
Are there any other public comments? Comments from the floor? In regards to anything as far as town business is concerned? I'd like to thank everyone for showing up tonight. Like I said, I appreciate the attendance. I hope that we see this all the time, not just when there's something happening next door. Very much appreciated. We will, as stated, the board tonight will try and get everything the meeting's set as quick as possible. I don't have my calendar right now, but I would say we'll talk with the zoning board and get those together, and we will establish that committee, and all meetings will be public meetings. They'll be duly notified. First one will be 10 days posted. I have a 10-day posting. I received a couple of phone calls tonight saying there was only 48 hours. We didn't have that notice. I said, well, it was a regular agenda item. The agenda is posted 48 hours, so informational only. So that's why it was 48 hours notice. But yes, the postings will be out, and I would probably state that we're going to be looking for 5 or 6 representatives from the township, from not just right next door. So if anyone is interested, please leave us your name, get a hold of one of the supervisors within the next day or 2. We already have 2 that have volunteered, so we'd like some more, and very much appreciate it.
Pete, will you put that picture on the website?
Greg, yep. I won't. Greg.
Oh.
Greg's the.
I will.
Greg. Right. Greg is our website guru. So yes. So